I heard my son's fiancée laugh from the living room. The old lady is 70, she told the man in the suit. She won't be around much longer. This place is basically ours. She thought my life was over. She thought I was just some dusty relic. She just signed her own eviction notice. She just doesn't know it yet. If you can already feel the storm brewing and you live for the moment karma finally kicks in, do yourself a favor. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. You're not going to want to miss a single second of how this nightmare unravels. It was Tuesday afternoon, and the chill of a late Seattle autumn was just starting to bite. I'd just gotten home from my weekly bridge game, my mind still on a grand slam I'd missed. I pushed open the solid oak door of my home, the home I'd built with my husband, Arthur, 30 years ago, and that's when I heard it. A voice that was not my son's, and the high manufactured laugh of his fiancée, Chloe. The zoning here is the real gold mine, Chloe was saying. Her voice, usually a sugary sweet coo, had a sharp metallic edge I'd never heard before. You could easily tear this down and put up 3, maybe 4 luxury townhomes. The view of the lake alone. I froze in the foyer, my cashmere scarf still clutched in my hand. My house wasn't just a house. It was a fortress of memories. It was the place Arthur and I had toasted our success after building our restaurant empire from a single crab shack. It was where my son Leo had taken his first steps. A man I'd never seen before, slick in a gray suit, was looking out the floor-to-ceiling windows, tapping his pen against his chin. "It's a hell of a lot of land, I'll give you that," he said. "But what about the owner? Is she agreeable to a sale?" And that's when she said it, the line that changed everything. "The old lady? Oh, Eleanor? She lives here." Chloe laughed, as if I were a piece of antique furniture that came with the property. "She's 70. She won't be around much longer. My fiancé, Leo, handles the big picture. This place is basically ours. We're just planning ahead." The air left my lungs. It felt like I'd been punched in the gut. The old lady won't be around much longer. I had welcomed this girl into my home. I stepped into the living room. The wood floors didn't even creak. Arthur and I had paid for quality. "Mr. I asked, my voice dangerously calm. The man in the suit spun around, his professional smile freezing. Chloe went pale, her designer handbag slipping from her shoulder. "Mr. Vance," the man said, extending a hand. I was just admiring the property. "I am Eleanor Bishop," I said, ignoring his hand. "The sole owner of this property." "And you are trespassing!" Chloe scrambled, her voice jumping back to that fake sweet register. "Eleanor, oh my God, you scared me. Mr. Vance is a friend. We were just talking about landscaping." "Landscaping," I repeated. I looked Mr. Vance dead in the eye. "Does your landscaping business often involve discussions of zoning, demolition, and luxury townhomes?" The man, credit to him, had the decency to look ashamed. He gathered his briefcase. "My apologies, Mrs. Bishop. I was given the impression... Well, my mistake." He shot a toxic look at Chloe and made a quick exit. The front door clicked shut, and the silence in the room was heavy, suffocating. Chloe's face, usually a perfect mask of foundation and fillers, was twisted in pure, unfiltered rage. "How dare you?" she hissed, dropping the sweet girl act completely. "You humiliated me." "I was setting up our future. Leo's future." "My son's future does not involve selling my home out from under me," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the air. "Oh, grow up, Eleanor," she snapped. "This house is a dinosaur. It's too big for you. You're just rattling around in it, wasting space. Leo and I are trying to build something, and you're just sitting on all this equity, being selfish." Selfish. I thought back to 18 months ago. My son, Leo, my 42-year-old boy, had shown up on my doorstep, his tail between his legs. His latest groundbreaking tech startup had crashed and burned, just like the podcast before it and the curated travel blog before that. He'd lost his apartment in Capitol Hill, and he'd brought her, Chloe. 28 years old, an influencer whose main influence seemed to be on my son's credit card. She'd walked in with 6 suitcases and a look in her eye that sized up every piece of art on my walls. "Just for a couple of months, Mom," Leo had pleaded, "just until I get back on my feet." I was lonely. Arthur had been gone for 5 years, a sudden, shocking heart attack that had stolen my partner and my best friend. The house was too quiet. I'd said yes. A couple of months turned into a year, then 18 months. The first change was small. My antique Persian rug in the living room was triggering Chloe's allergies. It was replaced with a sterile gray shag thing. Then, my heavy velvet curtains, The ones Arthur and I had picked out in Italy were too dark. They were replaced by cheap, sheer white panels. We're just freshening up the vibe. Ellie, Chloe would say, patting my hand with her perfectly manicured claws. She called me Ellie. Nobody called me Ellie. Leo, my sweet, directionless son, just went along. She has a great eye, Mom. The house looks so much more now. Now, standing in my living room, watching this viper pace back and forth, I realized what freshening up really meant. It meant erasing me, erasing Arthur. You live here for free, Chloe, I stated, the words like ice chips. You eat my food, you use my utilities, and you repay that generosity by trying to sell my house? It's going to be our house, she shrieked. Leo and I got engaged last week. This is a family home now, and as family we decided it's time to liquidate. Engaged? My son was going to marry this parasite, and he hadn't even told me. This conversation is over, I said, turning to walk away. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. It was rage, a cold, deep rage I hadn't felt since a rival restaurant tried to steal my head chef in '98. This isn't over. She yelled at my back. Leo will hear about this. You're just a bitter old woman who can't stand to see us happy. I went upstairs to my study, the one room she hadn't dared to freshen up yet. I locked the door. I sat at Arthur's old desk, the one made of dark mahogany. I looked at the photo of us on the day we opened our flagship restaurant, the Bishop's Catch, right on the waterfront. We were young, tired, and grinning like fools. Oh, Arthur, I whispered to the empty room. I let a fox into the henhouse. I heard the front door open downstairs. Leo was home. I heard Chloe's voice, instantly turning watery and victimized, as she threw him out. She was so mean to me. She said I didn't need to hear the rest. My son, my brilliant, weak-willed son, would believe her. He always believed the pretty new thing, but Chloe made two critical mistakes. First, she mistook my kindness for weakness. Second, she forgot who I was. I wasn't just the old lady. I was Eleanor Bishop. I had negotiated with fishermen's unions, stared down health inspectors, and built a multi-million-dollar business from nothing but a good crab cake recipe and an iron will. She thought she was planning her future. She had no idea she had just become my project. I opened the bottom drawer of Arthur's desk and pulled out a clean black ledger. It was time to do what I did best: clean house. My son's voice came through the thick mahogany of the study door, tight with an irritation I knew all too well. Mom, are you in there? Chloe is downstairs and she's totally freaking out. What did you say to her? I took a slow, calming breath, my gaze fixed on the black ledger I'd just opened. Freaking out. Of course she was. That was a predator's move. Strike first, then play the victim. I smoothed my silk blouse and unlocked the door. Leo was standing there, his phone in his hand, his brow furrowed in that patented look of put-upon frustration he'd perfected. He was 42, but in that moment, he looked like a teenager about to argue over car keys. Mom, what the hell was that? He started, not even waiting for me to speak. Chloe is sobbing. She said you were incredibly cruel, and that you threw her friend, Mr. Vance, out of the house. Her friend, I repeated, my voice flat. Leo, he was a property developer. She was trying to sell my house. She told him I was 70 and wouldn't be around much longer. Those were her exact words. Leo actually winced, but he recovered quickly, waving his hand dismissively. Oh, come on, Mom. You're twisting things. Chloe is a go-getter. She's proactive. We were just exploring options. This house is a ton of work for you. We were thinking, we could sell this place, get a sick penthouse downtown, maybe a place in Palm Springs. You wouldn't have to lift a finger. She's trying to help us, help you. The us and we stung more than the lie. He was in on it. This wasn't just Chloe's fantasy. It was their shared plan. My son, the one who'd built model rockets in the backyard, had calculated the equity on my life. But that's not what I want to talk about, Leo, I said, changing tactics. He was prepared to argue about real estate. He wasn't prepared for this. She called herself your fiancé. You're engaged? He froze. His face flushed a dull red. Gotcha. Yeah, we were going to tell you," he stammered, running a hand through his thinning hair. "It just happened. It was private. We were waiting for the right moment." And the right moment was during a clandestine meeting with a developer in my living room? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. The disappointment in my tone was louder than any shout. "You didn't tell your own mother you were getting married. I had to find out from her, while she was liquidating my assets." "God, you're making it sound so transactional," he shot back, his guilt turning to anger. "It's not like that. I love her, and she's smart, Mom. She's not like your generation, just waiting for things to happen. She makes them happen. She's a hustler." "She's a hustler, all right," I said, the words barely a whisper. "But I have to wonder what she's hustling you for. 18 months you've lived here, Leo. Your startup is dead. You haven't had a real paycheck in 2 years. Yet, she has a new designer bag every week. She gets her nails done twice a week. That's expensive hustling. Who's paying for it?" "Oh, wait." I looked around the foyer. "I am." "That's a low blow," he snapped. "The truth often is. You are 42 years old, Leo. You are living in my house, eating my food, and letting your fiancé plan my demise so you can move to a sick penthouse. Arthur would be so ashamed." That hit him. His face went white. "Don't. You can't. Just don't bring Dad into this." "I don't have to," I said, turning back toward my study. "He's in the foundation of this house. He's in the walls. And you're letting a 28-year-old grifter tear it all down because you're too weak to see what's right in front of you. You know what, Mom? You're just bitter," he yelled after me. "You're bitter because I found someone. You're just a lonely old woman and you can't stand to see me happy." I closed the study door, the lock clicking into place with a heavy, final sound. The rage I'd felt earlier was gone, replaced by a deep, glacial cold. He hadn't just defended her. He had used her words. Lonely old woman. He was lost to me, at least for now. I couldn't fight this with emotion. Leo was compromised. I sat at Arthur's desk. The black ledger was open. I wrote Chloe Ann King at the top of a fresh page. I knew her last name from a piece of mail she'd left on the counter weeks ago, a credit card offer. I drew a neat, straight line underneath it. It was time to do what I did best, run the numbers. I wasn't a tech genius, but I wasn't a Luddite either. You don't run a restaurant empire without knowing how to check your competition. I opened my laptop and started simple. Google, Facebook, Instagram. Her Instagram was public. It was a digital shrine to a life she wasn't living. My stomach turned. There was a picture of her, just 3 days old, lounging by my pool in a tiny bikini, a champagne flute in her hand. The caption, "Finally, a moment to relax at the new pad. So blessed. Seattle living boss babe. My pool. My pad." I scrolled deeper. There was a photo of her in my kitchen, holding a spatula over a pan, whipping up a little brunch for my man in my dream kitchen. Homeowner, der goals. There were dozens. Pictures of my garden tagged as her Zen space. A selfie in my walk-in closet, captioned, "A girl can never have too many shoes, and you need more space." She wasn't just planning to take my house. She was actively, digitally, rebranding it as her own. She was erasing me from my own life, one hashtag at a time. This was beyond gold digging. This was pathological. I found her business page. Chloe King Coaching. It was a mess of bad graphics and self-help cliches. Manifest your destiny. Monetize your vibe. She was selling a $500 online course on how to be an influencer. The link was broken. This was all good. It painted a picture of a desperate, low-level con artist. But it wasn't enough. It was all smoke and mirrors. Leo would call it building a brand. I needed fire. I needed something concrete, something legal, something that would pin her to the wall. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I knew what I had to do. I picked up my phone, but I didn't call the police. I didn't call a lawyer. Not yet. I dialed a number I knew by heart. It rang twice. Frank. A gravelly voice answered. Frank Donahue. He'd been my CFO for 20 years. He was the only man I knew who was more ruthless with a balance sheet than I was. He'd retired 3 years ago, but we still talked. Frank, it's Eleanor Bishop. Eleanor, he grunted, and I could practically hear him smile. Still terrorizing the Seattle restaurant scene, I hope. I've moved on to domestic terrorism, apparently, I said, my voice dry. Listen, Frank, I need a favor. A very quiet, very deep favor. I need you to find someone. Not my line of work, Ellie. I'm retired, remember? I fish now. You get bored fishing by 10 a.m., don't lie to me. I'm sending you a name, Chloe Ann King. She's 28, supposedly an influencer, and she's attached herself to Leo. She's also trying to sell my house. I need a full workup. I'm talking financial, legal, credit. Everything. I want to know if she's ever bounced a check. I want to know what she ate for breakfast 2 Tuesdays ago. I want to know where she's hiding the bodies. There was a long pause. Then I heard the sound of a keyboard tapping. I hate a grifter, Frank said, his voice all business now. I'll need a retainer for the private investigator. It's already on its way, I said. Find her, Frank. Find all of her. I hung up the phone and looked at the name in my ledger. The first move had been made. Chloe thought she was playing checkers with a senile old woman. She was about to find out she'd just walked into a chess match with a grandmaster. And I never, ever lose. The 3 days that followed were a masterclass in psychological warfare. The air in my home was thick and metallic, like the taste of a battery. Leo and Chloe were a united front, a 2-person cult, of which she was the charismatic leader, and he was the first blind follower. They moved through the house with a newfound sense of ownership, their voices dropping to conspiratorial whispers whenever I entered a room. They'd stop, look up at me, and plaster on these bright, brittle smiles. More coffee, Eleanor? We're ordering Thai, do you want in? They were treating me like a senile aunt, a problem to be managed, not a person to be respected. Chloe in particular was practically glowing. My confrontation hadn't scared her. It had validated her. She had forced Leo to choose, and he had chosen her. Now she was insufferable. She hummed as she walked down the halls I had built. She left her laptop open on the kitchen island, her Pinterest boards glaringly visible. Our dream wedding. Penthouse vibes. Future nursery. It was a deliberate, calculated campaign to show me that my time was over. On Friday evening, they cornered me. I was in the library, trying to read, but the words were just swimming on the page. They stood in the doorway, Leo holding Chloe's hand like she was a precious, delicate bird. Mom, Leo started, puffing out his chest in a pathetic imitation of his father. Chloe and I, we want to host an engagement party. Here, next Saturday. Chloe beamed, stepping forward to show off the ring. It was enormous. A blinding, square-cut chunk of glass or cubic zirconia that looked ridiculous on her slender hand. It was the kind of ring a con artist would buy to prove her worth. Just a small, intimate cocktail party, she cooed, her eyes glittering. For all our friends to finally see the house. And to celebrate us. My house. Your friends? I asked, keeping my voice perfectly level. I wasn't aware you knew anyone in Seattle. Oh, you'd be surprised, she said with a dismissive wave. I'm a connector, Ellie. It's what I do. It's time we officially announced our union, and we really want you to be a part of it. It was a power play. Plain and simple. We are the new masters of this house. Get in line or get out of the way. A party, I repeated, closing my book. How ambitious. Leo, bless his simple heart, mistook my sarcasm for consent. Great, awesome. See, Chloe? I told you she'd be cool with it. Don't you worry about a thing, Mom. Chloe is handling all the details. You just have to show up and look nice. Oh, I wouldn't miss it for the world, I said, smiling. I'm sure it will be an event to remember. The call came on Monday morning. I was in my study, the one room they hadn't yet dared to freshen up. My private line, the one with a number only Frank and my lawyer had, buzzed. "Eleanor," Frank's gravelly voice said, skipping all pleasantries. "You're not dealing with a fox. You're dealing with a goddamn sewer rat with a rap sheet." I leaned forward, my pen freezing over the restaurant ledgers. "Talk to me, Frank." "First things first," he said. "Your girl?" "Chloe Ann King?" "She doesn't exist. Not really." My blood went cold. "What do you mean?" "I mean her name is Jennifer Jenna Petrucci, from Scottsdale, Arizona. She legally changed it 2 years ago, right after she finished a 9-month stretch in Maricopa County." I gripped the edge of Arthur's heavy mahogany desk. "Jail? For what?" "Take your pick," Frank grunted. I could hear him shuffling papers. My PI had a field day. She's got a laundry list of small-time cons that add up to a big-time problem. Credit card fraud, check kiting, 3 counts of petty larceny. But her specialty, according to the file, is romance fraud. She finds a mark, usually a weak-willed guy with a decent bank account, convinces him they're soulmates, drains him dry and vanishes. I thought of Leo, defending her with such passion. "My son. He's the mark, Eleanor," Frank said, his voice softening for a moment. "She's got 2 outstanding warrants in Arizona for skipping bail on a grand theft auto charge. Looks like she borrowed her last fiancé's Porsche and tried to sell it for parts in Nevada. Jennifer Petrucci." The name felt like acid in my mouth. "What about her influencer business?" I asked, a joke, a shell. "The Chloe King Coaching LLC is registered to a P.O. box in a strip mall. Her bank accounts are a revolving door. Money goes in, money goes out, all to untraceable cash apps. She owes over 70 grand in defaulted student loans for a communications degree she never finished. She's not just a gold digger, Eleanor. She's a professional criminal. And she's sloppy. Does he know any of this?" "Doubtful. He's the score of a lifetime. She probably thinks she hit the jackpot. A gullible guy with a rich mother and a $10 million house. He's not her partner. He's her retirement plan." I felt a strange cold calm settle over me. This was no longer a family squabble. This was an infestation. "Frank," I said, my voice all business. "Send me the full file, encrypted, everything you have. Mugshots, police reports, aliases, everything." "What are you gonna do, Ellie? Call the cops? They'll pick her up on the warrants, but Leo's a grown man. He'll just bail her out and hate you for it." "You don't fight a rat with a warning, Frank," I said. "You set a trap. A very public, very permanent trap." I hung up. "Jenna." I sat there for a long time, the file downloading, my mind clicking into place like the tumblers of a safe. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was focused. Then I heard a noise from the hallway downstairs, a heavy scraping sound. I walked out of my study and looked over the second-floor railing. Chloe, Jenna, was at the far end of the hall. She was directing 2 large men in moving uniforms. They were standing in front of the antique cedar chest that had sat in that spot for 30 years. Arthur's chest. It was where I kept his things. His favorite cashmere sweaters, his collection of vintage maps from our travels, the framed photo of him holding Leo on the day he was born. "No, it's totally hideous," Chloe was saying, her voice echoing in the hall. "It smells like old people and mothballs. Just take it to the basement, or the dump, I don't care. I need this space for a hydration station. A mini fridge for my skincare products." "Stop," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the air like a blade. The 2 movers froze. Jenna turned, her face a mask of pure annoyance. "Eleanor, what is it now? I'm trying to get the house ready for my party." "You will not touch that chest," I said, descending the stairs, each step slow and deliberate. She actually rolled her eyes, a full theatrical teenage eye roll. "Oh my God, you are so dramatic." "It's just stuff, Ellie. Dead people's stuff. Leo and I are trying to build a life here. Your dusty old memories are in the way." She turned to the movers, who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. "Take it." "I am telling you," I said, reaching the bottom step, "to unhand my husband's property." She laughed. A short, ugly bark. "Or what? What are you going to do, old lady? Call the cops? Leo and I are a team. This is our house now. You're just a guest. Maybe it's time you started acting like one." The movers looked at me, then at her, paralyzed. I looked at her. I mean, I really looked at her, not as Chloe, the annoying fiancée, but as Jennifer Petrucci, the low-rent con artist from Scottsdale, the thief who thought she'd found her biggest score. And I smiled. It was a small, tight smile that didn't reach my eyes. "You're right," I said, my voice suddenly light, almost cheerful. "You're absolutely right. It's just an old box. It's clutter. Please continue. Make the house beautiful for your party." The shift in her expression was comical. She was completely thrown. The movers looked at me, stunned. "Go on," I insisted, gesturing to the chest. "Put it wherever you like. You're the lady of the house now, aren't you?" A slow, triumphant smirk spread across her face. She thought she'd broken me. "See? I knew you'd see it my way," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. She turned to the men. "Basement, now!" I watched them lift Arthur's chest. I watched them carry 35 years of my life down the basement stairs. And I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel angry. I felt nothing at all. I turned and walked back to my study, locking the door behind me. The encrypted file was finished downloading. I clicked it open. "Okay, Jenna," I whispered to the screen, which was now filled with mugshots, police reports, and a list of angry, duped men. "You want a party? I'll give you a party you'll never forget." The key to a good trap isn't the bait. It's the illusion of safety. For the next 6 days, I became a ghost in my own home, a master of the frail smile and the non-committal nod. I made myself small. I played the part of the lonely old woman so perfectly that even Leo, who had known me his entire life, bought the performance. The morning after I'd surrendered Arthur's chest, I came downstairs to find them in the kitchen. They were whispering, their heads bent together over an iPad, and they jumped when I walked in. "Good morning, children," I said, my voice intentionally soft. Leo looked at me, his eyes full of wary relief. "Hey, Mom, you okay?" I poured myself a coffee, my hand shaking just slightly. I'd practiced that in the mirror. "You know," I said with a sigh, "I did a lot of thinking last night, and you were right, Chloe. This house is full of old things. Old memories." I forced a watery smile. "It's time for a change. You're bringing new life into this place. I shouldn't stand in the way of that." Leo's face crumpled in relief. "Oh, Mom, thank God. I knew you'd understand. This is great. Right, Chloe?" Chloe, Jenna, wasn't just triumphant. She was smug. Her smile was slow and proprietary. She walked over and, to my horror, patted my arm. "Of course, Ellie. It's all about moving forward. Now about the party. Since you're feeling so much better, I've run into a tiny cash flow issue with the caterer. They need a 50% deposit. It's only $8,000. She said it so casually. $8,000. "Of course, dear," I said, not blinking. I walked to the kitchen desk, pulled out my checkbook, the one linked to the household account I'd given Leo access to and which I now monitored hourly, and wrote the check. "Is that all? What about the string quartet? The ice sculpture?" Her eyes widened. She hadn't even mentioned those yet. You'd cover that? "It's your engagement party," I said. "It should be perfect." For the rest of the week, I was her willing accomplice. I was a bottomless ATM, a silent, smiling prop. I watched her spend my money with a desperation that was almost pathetic. She wasn't just planning a party. She was liquidating. She rented hideous, velvet-roped lounge furniture. She ordered a garish, 3-tiered cake. She hired mood lighting technicians who bathed my beautiful, warm home in a sterile nightclub purple glow. "It's so LA vibe, don't you think?" she'd say. "Just lovely, dear," I'd reply. Leo, meanwhile, was her happy, clueless errand boy. He was installing lights, carrying cases of champagne, and beaming at his fiancée. "This is gonna be epic, Mom," he told me, wiping sweat from his brow. "Chloe knows everyone. She's getting some major Seattle tech guys to come. This could be huge for my next venture." "I'm sure it will be, Leo," I said. My real work, of course, was happening behind the locked door of my study. My frail persona would dissolve the second I sat at Arthur's desk. The black ledger was filling up. Caterer, $8,000, check Narbor 1045. String quartet, $4,500, check Narbor 1046. Ice sculpture, 2 swans kissing. God help me. 1200, check number 1047. Furniture and lighting, $600-700 credit card. Then, I'd open the encrypted file from Frank, the real Chloe King guest list. First, I found the warrants from Arizona. They were active. That was plan A, but it was messy. As Frank said, Leo would just bail her out. I needed something cleaner, something more permanent. Then I found him. Richard Doyle, the fiancé from Nevada, the one with the Porsche. According to the PI's notes, he wasn't just angry. He was financially ruined and professionally embarrassed. He ran a chain of high-end car dealerships. The charge for grand theft auto had almost cost him his floor plan financing, picked up my private line and dialed, "Doyle, automotive." A crisp voice answered, "I need to speak to Richard Doyle. Tell him it's regarding a mutual acquaintance named Jennifer Petrucci." I was on hold for less than 10 seconds. "Who the hell is this?" a voice growled. "Mr. Doyle," I said, my voice calm and corporate. "My name is Eleanor Bishop. I am calling from Seattle. I believe your Ms. Petrucci, who now goes by Chloe King, is currently living in my home and is engaged to my son." There was a long, heavy silence. I heard him take a shaky breath. That parasite. You're kidding me. I assure you, Mr. Doyle, I am not. She is, in fact, throwing herself a very expensive engagement party here at my house this Saturday. Entirely at my expense. So she found another sucker, he spat. "What do you want from me?" "Sympathy?" "An appearance," I said. "I'm orchestrating a small reunion. I'm inviting several people from her past to come and wish her well. I was hoping you might be the guest of honor." He was quiet for a moment. I could hear the gears turning. What's in it for me? I've spent 20 grand on lawyers trying to find that bitch. Satisfaction, Mr. Doyle. And a first-class round-trip ticket to Seattle, plus a suite at the Four Seasons, all on me. I just need you to be here at 9 p.m. sharp. And perhaps bring any documentation you might have regarding your time with her. A copy of a police report, perhaps, as an engagement gift. He started to laugh. It was a cold, ugly sound, but I understood it completely. "Mrs. Bishop, I would fly to Seattle in coach for this. I've got the original police report, the VIN from the Porsche she stole, and text messages that would make your hair curl. I'll be there, and I'll wear my best damn suit." "Excellent," I said. "My assistant will be in touch." Next, I called my lawyer. "Marcus, Saturday night, 8 p.m., my house. Wear your party clothes, but bring your briefcase. You're a guest, until you're not." The final call was to a name on the warrants, a bail bondsman in Scottsdale who had lost $10,000 when she skipped town. "Mr. Henderson, I have a tip on the whereabouts of a Ms. Jennifer Petrucci." "Yes, this Saturday around 9:30 p.m. I'm sure the Seattle PD would be happy to coordinate." "Yes, I can guarantee she'll be there." By Friday, the house was unrecognizable. It looked like a cheap hotel lobby. Jenna was in the living room, directing the placement of a truly hideous floral arrangement, snapping her fingers at the staff. "No, no, no. Over there!" I need a clear sightline from the door to the champagne tower. This is all about the reveal. Leo was standing beside her, holding her tiny purse, beaming. "It looks amazing, babe. Just amazing." "I know," she said, not even looking at him. She saw me standing in the doorway. "Oh, Ellie. Thank God, the DJ just texted me. He needs a Venmo. It's only $500. Can you handle it?" "I am swamped," I smiled. The checkbook was in my pocket. "Of course, dear. Anything for your special day." She turned back to the flowers, and I turned to walk to my study. I passed the hall. The space where Arthur's chest used to be was, as she'd promised, now occupied by a mini-fridge stocked with tiny, expensive bottles of sparkling water. I went upstairs and locked my door. The trap was set. All the pieces were in place. The cheese was on the spring. All I had to do was wait for the rat to show up for her party. The night of the party, I descended the main staircase at precisely 7:30 p.m. I was wearing an old, deep teal silk gown that Arthur had always loved, tailored to perfection. My silver hair was swept up, and I'd put on the bishop pearls, the real ones. The ones that cost more than a luxury car. I was, in every sense, the lady of the manor. And a lady always protects her home. The house was thrumming with a bass line so deep it vibrated in my teeth. The purple lighting made everything look bruised. And the people. Oh, the people. This wasn't a party. It was a casting call for a reality show. Jenna, or rather Chloe, stood by the champagne tower she'd insisted on, wearing a white sequined dress that was cut so low it was practically a navel ornament. She was draped in my son, who looked like a nervous poodle in a rented tuxedo. Her friends were a sea of desperation. Young women with identical filler-plumped faces, and men in tight shirts who kept checking their crypto apps. They weren't tech titans. They were side hustlers, crypto bros, and other influencers who were filming every second for their stories. They were all grabbing free champagne and piling plates high with the $8,000 worth of catering, most of which was already congealing under the heat lamps. "Eleanor, you look vintage," Chloe chirped when she saw me, her eyes doing a quick, dismissive scan. "Get yourself a drink, mingle. Try not to worry about anything." "I wouldn't dream of it, dear," I said, my smile serene. "You've handled everything." Leo rushed over, pecking me on the cheek. "Mom, isn't this insane? Chloe is a rock star. Look at this crowd! That guy over there, he runs a massive NFT marketplace." I glanced over. The NFT titan looked about 22 and was currently trying to see if he could fit an entire crab cake in his mouth at once. "It's impressive, Leo," I said. For the next hour, I played the part of the benevolent, slightly dotty grandmother. I drifted through the rooms, smiling vaguely, nodding at people who didn't even see me. I overheard snippets of conversation that confirmed everything. She said her fiancé's mother was loaded and basically senile. Hunt told me her new house was over 10,000 square feet. Said if I tagged the party, she'd get me a brand collab. They were all vultures, drawn to the promise of a score. And she was their queen. At 8:00 p.m. on the dot, the doorbell rang. I'd been watching the entrance. A tall, silver-haired man in an impeccable charcoal suit stepped in. Marcus, my lawyer for 30 years. He was the sharpest mind in Seattle, and he looked perfectly at home. "Eleanor," he said, taking my hand and kissing the air above it. "Lovely party. The purple is a choice." "Marcus, thank you for coming," I murmured, leading him toward the library, away from the pulsing music. "Are you prepared?" "The documents are in my briefcase," he said, his eyes scanning the crowd with professional disdain. "Full power of attorney, trespass notices, and a pre-drafted civil complaint for fraud and unjust enrichment just for fun. Are you absolutely sure you want to play it this way, Eleanor? It's dramatic." "She moved my husband's chest to the basement to make room for a skincare fridge," I said. Marcus nodded, his face hardening. "Dramatic it is. I'll be by the bar, networking, until you give the signal." I returned to the party. Jenna was now standing on the third step of the main staircase, tapping a champagne flute with one of her blood-red nails. "Hi, everyone." "Hi," she squealed into the sudden silence. "Can I just have your attention for like 1 sec?" Leo stood beside her, beaming like an idiot, his arm clamped around her waist. "I just wanted to thank you all for coming to our home," she gushed. The crowd cheered. "This has been a journey, and I am just so blessed to have found my soulmate, Leo." She pulled his head down for a loud, performative kiss that made my stomach curdle. "And," she continued, "I want to give a super special shout-out to my amazing, amazing future mother-in-law, Eleanor." She pointed at me. A spotlight. God help me, she'd hired a spotlight. Swung and found me near the library door. I smiled, a perfect, serene mask. She has been so supportive of this new chapter, of us, of this transition. She held up her left hand, the fake diamond flashing in the purple light. "Welcome to the future, everyone. The Bishop estate is officially under new management." The applause was deafening. She was high on her own power, completely untouchable. She believed she had won. She believed I was broken. It was perfect. I looked at my watch. 9 p.m. I slipped out the front door onto the cool, quiet porch. A black town car had just pulled up to the curb. A man got out. He was in his late 50s, with the expensive suit and weary, angry eyes of a man who had been publicly humiliated. He carried a sleek leather attaché case. "Mr. Doyle?" I asked. He turned, his face tight. "Mrs. Bishop, you've got quite the circus going on in there." "It's the closing act, Mr. Doyle," I said. "Thank you for coming. Are you ready?" I've been ready for 2 years, he growled. Then let's not keep the bride-to-be waiting. I led him through the foyer. The music was back on, a deafening electronic thump. Jenna was standing by her absurd swan ice sculpture, laughing with the NFT bro. She was the absolute center of the universe. I walked straight toward her. The crowd parted for me, sensing a shift in the energy. Leo saw me coming and his smile faltered, a flicker of his earlier guilt in his eyes. "Chloe, darling," I said, my voice projecting easily over the music. I'd spent decades calling orders in a busy kitchen. I knew how to be heard. She turned, her smile pasted on. "Eleanor, I was just telling Kyle here about our plans for the guest house." "That's wonderful," I said. "But there's someone here I'd like you to meet. He came all the way from Nevada just for you. This is Mr. Richard Doyle." The name hit her like a physical blow. The color drained from her face. I mean, all of it. Under the strobing lights, she looked gray, waxy. Her smile didn't just fade, it cracked and fell off. The champagne flute slipped from her fingers and shattered on the marble floor. No one moved. The music seemed to stutter. "What?" she whispered. "Who?" Mr. Doyle stepped forward, his face a mask of cold fury. He was smiling, but it was the grin of a shark. "Hello, Jenna," he said, his voice quiet but carrying. "You look great. It's been a while. By the way," he said, pointing to the ring on her left hand. "Is that my mother's ring?" Jenna looked from him to me and back again. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. She was, for the first time since I'd met her, completely and totally silent. "What's going on?" Leo said, his voice high and nervous. "Who is this guy?" "Babe, who's Jenna?" Richard Doyle didn't take his eyes off her. "She didn't tell you?" he asked, his voice dripping with mock sympathy. "Oh, that's right. She's Chloe now. Jenna Petrucci is the name on the police report I filed. For grand theft auto. For my Porsche. And for this." He reached into his attaché case. The trap was sprung. Richard Doyle didn't just pull out a single document. He opened his attaché case on my gleaming teak coffee table, one of the few pieces of furniture Jenna hadn't put in storage, and began to lay out the evidence with the cold precision of a coroner. "This," he said, his voice slicing through the stunned silence, "is the police report I filed in Clark County, Nevada. For grand theft auto. The car? A 2023 Porsche 911 Turbo S. The VIN number is right here." He slid a second paper across the table. "And this," he continued, "is the security footage from the dealership showing Chloe driving it off the lot after telling me she was just getting it washed. And this is a copy of the wire transfer for $50,000 she pulled from my personal account. The one she said was for our wedding venue deposit. The NFT titan and the other influencers had their phones out. They weren't just filming. They were live streaming. The flashbulbs were popping like a red carpet event gone horribly wrong. "Leo, baby," Jenna stammered, her voice a pathetic high-pitched squeak. She was backing away, her eyes darting between me, Doyle, and my son. He's a stalker, a crazy ex. He couldn't handle it when I left him for you. Leo, you have to believe me." Leo was shaking his head, his face the color of ash. "The ring," he whispered, staring at her hand. He said that's his mother's ring." "It is," Doyle snapped. He produced a framed photo from the case. It was of an elegant, older woman, wearing the exact same, unmistakable square-cut diamond. She's been dead for 10 years. Jenna stole it from my safe. She told me it was tacky, and that she was getting it redesigned. Looks like she redesigned it right onto her own finger. "Babe, no." Jenna shrieked, finally lunging for Leo, trying to grab his arm. "He's lying. This is her, the old witch. She set this all up. She flew this lunatic here to poison you against me." Leo flinched away from her touch as if she were on fire. He looked at me, his eyes wide with a dawning, sickening horror. "Mom, this is insane. Mom?" I stepped forward, my pearls glowing in the god-awful purple light. "Yes, Leo, I did," I said, my voice calm and clear, carrying over the whispers. "I set this up. When I found your fiancé trying to sell my home, I did what you should have done. I ran a background check. Her name is Jennifer Petrucci. She is a career criminal with active warrants in Arizona for fraud and larceny. She wasn't building a life with you, son. She was liquidating you." As if summoned, my lawyer, Marcus Thorne, stepped out from the library, his briefcase in hand. "Ms. Petrucci," he said, his voice booming with authority. The party chatter died completely. "I am Marcus Thorne, Mrs. Bishop's legal counsel. I am serving you with a formal notice to vacate the premises, effective immediately. You are, as of this moment, trespassing." He placed the papers on the table, right next to Doyle's police report. That's when Jenna broke. The Chloe King persona evaporated. The mask didn't just slip, it shattered. What was left was pure gutter-level rage. "You old hag!" she screamed, her face contorting. She lunged not at Leo but at me. "I'll kill you! This is my house. My money!" She never made it. Richard Doyle, who apparently still had some lingering protective instincts, caught her by the upper arm. "I wouldn't do that," he growled. And just at that perfect cinematic moment, the doorbell rang. The influencers scattered, parting like the Red Sea. I walked calmly to the door and opened it. 2 Seattle police officers stood on my porch, their expressions all business. They were accompanied by a tired-looking man in a rumpled suit. "Mrs. Eleanor Bishop?" the taller officer asked. "Yes. Good evening, officers." "We're here." "Ma'am, is this a bad time?" he asked, peering past me at the bizarre, frozen tableau of a party. "Not at all," I said, stepping aside. "You've arrived right on time." I gestured toward the woman still struggling in Richard Doyle's grip. "I believe you're looking for her." The man in the rumpled suit stepped forward, his eyes locking on Jenna. "Jennifer Petrucci. Fancy seeing you here. I'm Stan Henderson. From Scottsdale Bail Bonds. You owe my client $10,000, and you owe the state of Arizona some time." "Officers," Henderson said. "That's your fugitive." It was over in seconds. All her fight was gone, replaced by a cold animal panic. "You can't do this," she whimpered as the officers took her from Doyle, and one of them clicked the handcuffs onto her slender wrists. The sound was sharp, final. "You bitch!" she spat at me, her face pale and streaked with mascara. "You think you've won? You're still just a lonely old woman in a big empty house. You'll die here alone." "Maybe," I said, walking over to her. I leaned in close, my voice a soft whisper only she could hear. "But I'll die in my house. You'll be in a cell. Oh, and dear," I gestured to her left hand. "The ring. Give it back." The officer, with a look of profound disgust, unlocked one cuff, slid my future daughter-in-law's tacky ring off her finger, and handed it to a stunned Richard Doyle. They marched her out, her sequined dress catching the flashing red and blue lights from the patrol car. The party guests, realizing the free champagne had run out and a real arrest had just happened, evaporated, streaming out the front door, whispering into their phones. Within 5 minutes, the house was silent, save for the hum of the ice sculpture's motor and the soft drip, 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 as the swans began to melt. Richard Doyle stood there, looking at his mother's ring in his palm. He nodded at me, a look of deep, weary gratitude. "Mrs. Bishop, you are a work of art." "I'm just a homeowner, Mr. Doyle," I said. "Thank you for the perfect engagement gift." He nodded, put the ring in his pocket, and walked out. Marcus came over, stacking his papers. "Well, that was dramatic. I'll have the locks changed by noon tomorrow, just in case. Call me Eleanor." He too was gone. Finally, I was alone with my son. Leo hadn't moved. He was sitting on the stairs, his head in his hands, his rented tuxedo jacket slumped around him. The champagne tower looked like a monument to his stupidity. He was weeping. Not loud sobs, but the broken, silent tears of a man who has finally seen himself for the fool he is. I walked over and shut off the thumping music. I hit the main switch, killing the hideous purple lights, plunging the room into the soft, warm glow of the foyer chandelier. The house sighed in relief. It was my house again. I stood in front of my son for a long moment. I could have said 1,000 things. "I told you so. How could you? What were you thinking?" But I didn't. He was my son. He was weak, and he was foolish, but he was mine. "Go upstairs, Leo," I said, my voice not unkind. "Go to your old room. We'll clean all this up in the morning." He looked up at me, his face a ruin of shame. "Mom, I'm so—" "I know," I said. "Go to bed." He nodded, a broken child, and slowly trudged up the stairs. I was alone. I walked through the trashed living room, picking up a few stray glasses. I went to the basement. The air was cool and smelled of cedar. I ran my hand over the lid of Arthur's chest. "It's handled, my love," I whispered. "She's gone. The house is safe." I went back upstairs, poured myself a very small, very expensive brandy, and sat in my own armchair. Jenna was right about one thing. I was in a big house all alone, but I smiled, because it was my house. And as I told her fiancé, the hustler from Arizona, I never ever lose.